Tableau is one of the most powerful visualization tool in the market. It's quite easy to learn this tool, and in order to be expert in creating visualization using Tableau, we need to build a strong foundation of Tableau's basic concept. As Gordon Hinckley once said, you can't build a great building on a weak foundation. Similarly, for creating a great visualization, we need to have a strong understanding of Tableau's basic concepts. In this tutorial, I will be covering all these basic concepts, starting with layout of Tableau Desktop, dimensions and measures, continuous and discrete fields, blue and green pill, shelves and cards, and rows and columns. If you are new to Tableau or you would like to brush up your existing Tableau basic concepts, then this tutorial is for you. Having said that, let's get started. Welcome back, this is Gurpreet from Tableau Vs Canvas, and in today's tutorial we are going to learn about basic concepts of Tableau. So let's start by understanding the layout of Tableau. When you open Tableau Desktop, you will see this screen, where on the left hand side you will see a sidebar where you can connect to datasets. So on the top of that panel you will see search for data, and Tableau server is the main selection criteria at the top of the section. So which means, like, if you have published any data sources on Tableau server, you can click on it and connect to those data sources. And below that there is a connection option to connect to a file like Microsoft Excel, text file, JSON file, and so on. And if your file option is not available here, you can click on more and find more options. So by default, it will give you an option which you most frequently used at the top. And then below that section, it gives you an option to connect to a server like SQL Server, Oracle, Redshift, Snowflake, or Salesforce. And you can also click on more to select more options. And below that section, Tableau by default provides us with the saved data sources like Sample Superstore, World Indicator, and Asia Pacific Superstore. And you can connect any of these if you are doing some practice session. And in this tutorial, I'll be using Sample Superstore dataset. And just on the right hand side of that section, you will see sample workbooks which are provided by Tableau. So you can play around with it as well by just clicking on it, and it will open you a great beautiful dashboards by default which is provided by Tableau. So let's click on Sample Superstore dataset, and once you do that, you will see this window. And this is the Tableau Desktop canvas page, you can say, where we create the structure of the visualization and draw the visualizations. So you can see here we have connected to Sample Superstore dataset, and on the left hand side we have all the fields, tables, and everything. And right hand side we have created just a stack bar chart to demo the concept of all the layout structure, what it is. So if we go to the next screen, it will give you the indication of all these different sections. So let's get started from the left top corner of this section. You will see this Tableau icon on the left hand side. So this icon, when you click on that, it will take you to the start page where you can connect to data. So it will take you to this page, so where you can connect to dataset. And this particular toolbar gives you lots of option to use different tools. Like you can use the save button to save the workbook. You can pause or add the data sources here. You can toggle between rows and columns. Actually, you can swap between rows and columns with this icon. You can sort the data in ascending and descending order, and so on. And you can use this presentation view if you are presenting the Tableau dashboard to somebody. So that's the toolbar on the top of the screen. And on the left hand side, you can see this section where we can see all the tables, fields. This is called sidebar. So in this section, we have all the fields, which are also called dimensions. And here below this line, you will see the measures. And for each table, so like for the table orders, this particular section shows us the dimensions. and the one below this gray line, it's the measure. Same way for people table, the person is a dimension, and below that line, people count is a measure. So on this section, we see all the different tables which we are using in the data set. And then you can see these columns and rows. These are basically the shelves. This is called column shelf and row shelf. As the name suggests, when you bring either dimension or measure into the column shelf, it will create the columns, and rows will be created when you bring dimension or measure in the row shelf. And then on the left hand side, we have this page shelf. It lets you break the view into a series of pages so you can better analyze how a specific field affects the rest of the data in the view. So that's why this section is used. So you can simply drag any of these dimensions or measures or date field into pages, and it will create you a view of series of pages based on that field. And then below that, we have a filter shelf. Filter shelf allows you to specify which data to include or exclude. It's, as the name suggests, filter out something which we don't want. So if we are bringing something in this field, you can get an option to filter it out. I will show you in a second how it works as well, but just trying to create a groundwork of all these sections and the layout in Tableau Desktop. Then below that, it's a mark card. Excuse me. Below that, it's a mark card. So that is used for visual analysis in Tableau. So it's really a key element. And when you drag a field to a different property in the mark cards, then you are adding the context and detail to the mark in the view. So in this particular example, I have dragged region into the color mark, and you can see how it added the color stack on a bar chart. So it added the detail to show us different region in a bar chart. So you can add different dimension and measures into size, or also to the label, tooltip, and detail. So these are the different mark cards used in Tableau. And on the right hand side, you will see this region as a color legend. So when we add the colors into the color mark, the color legend is created. So that can be seen on the right hand side. And this entire view is the canvas view, where you can actually design the dashboard, design the worksheet. So that's the canvas view. And on the bottom left corner, you will see sheet 1 and this one sheet with the plus sign at the bottom, and these multiple sheet with the plus sign, and this one. So the single sheet with the plus sign is a worksheet. It is similar to the tab in Excel spreadsheet. And this one, where we have multiple squares with a plus sign, it's a dashboard where you can bring multiple worksheets and combine together to create a dashboard. And then this section is kind of a book icon, which tells us that you can create a story with multiple sections, multiple story tags, using multiple dashboards in that. And at the bottom, you will see the status bar, which shows us marks, 1 row by 3 column. So you can see there is only 1 row but 3 columns, and it tells us the sum of sales, 2.2 million in this case. So status bars is really important, especially the marks you can see here on the left bottom corner. It is basically used to tell us the data points used in that worksheet. So if we are using too many marks in the worksheet, it can impact the performance of the dashboard. So we have to be mindful that these marks should not be too many. So recommended less than 1000 will be alright, but I have seen some dashboards where the marks are like more than 50,000, and the performance of those kind of dashboard is really poor. So while designing these kind of dashboard, we have to be really mindful how to use these data points. So that's about the layout of the dashboard. Moving on to dimensions and measures. Dimensions and measures represent what in the data, which means what the data is, what the data represents, and what is the meaning of data. Dimension, according to the definition from Cambridge Dictionary, means a part or a feature or a way of considering something. So dimensions is basically categorical, descriptive, and qualitative, which tells us the quality of something like names, date, geographical data. It is also used to slice and dice the measure values, and it need not to be a word, it can be a number too. Moving on to measure, measure according to the dictionary definition is used to discover the exact size or amount of something. In terms of data warehouse, a measure is a property on which a calculation, example sum, count, average, minimum, maximum, can be made. Measure is quantitative, it's numeric. It contains numeric quantitative values that you can measure, like sales, profit. It is typically aggregated when we bring the measure pill onto the dashboard. In Tableau version 2020.2 onwards, dimensions and measures are separated by a thin gray line between this red and blue section, as you can see. So all the dimensions are presented above this light gray line, and all the measures are just below that. And that is for each individual table, like for orders, you can see it here. And similarly for people, you will see person is a dimension which is just above that gray line. And below that gray line, it's a measure which is a people count, which is quantitative, which we can measure how many number of people are there. So it's counting the number of people. So that's about measures and dimension. Moving on to discrete and continuous. Discrete and continuous represents the how you want the data to be displayed in Tableau. So discrete, as the name suggests, it's individually separate and distinct values. Discrete value in Tableau is shown in a blue pill. So as you can see here, category is represented as a blue pill, which is showing us the individual category values, which is furniture, office, and technology. So these are the discrete category values. And these blue pills are used to show the headers or create the headers, which in this case, it's creating the headers for categories, which is furniture, office, and technology. It is also used to slice up the data based on the measure values. In this case, sum is the measure, sum of sales is the measure value, and it's slicing the categories into 3 different categories by sales. So it's slicing the data based on the measure values. Moving on to continuous values. As the name suggests, continuous means without any pause or interruptions. Continuous values in Tableau are shown in green pills. The green pills are used to create the axis. It shows the continuous range of values without any pause or interruptions. As you can see in this chart, sum of sales is a continuous value which is represented by a green pill. And when you bring sum of sales here, it creates an axis which shows a range of values from 0 to 800k, which is the sum of sales value for individual categories, which is furniture, office, and technology. And categories are shown in a blue pill, which is a discrete value. So now let's put it all together. So what and how? What does the data means? What does the data represents? It is shown by dimensions and measures. And dimension can be a discrete value or it can be a continuous value. If it's a discrete value, it is used to show headers or labels. When it's a continuous value, it will show us the axis. Same way, measure can be discrete and continuous. So discrete shown in a blue pill and measure can be shown as a label or a header value. And when it's a continuous axis, you can see it in a green pill. And how is to represent how the data is being displayed in a chart or in Tableau. And that's where dimensions and measure comes into picture. And in terms of continuous and discrete values, continuous values are always shown in green pill and discrete values are always shown in blue pill, which is used to represent the header and label. Now let's have a look at a practical example. So let's go to Tableau Desktop. So as you can see here, I have already brought the sample superstore dataset, and Let's start it from the beginning. Let me go to the blank sheet, and let's say I want to see category as a dimension, and you can see here category is sitting in the dimension section, and let me bring it into the row. So once you bring category into the row, you will see blue pill is created because it's a dimension and it's a discrete value. And when the discrete value is brought into the row shelf, it will show us the labels or the headers. And you can see here furniture, office, and technology are shown as a header values. And now let's bring a measure, which is a quantitative which we can measure. So in this case, we will bring the sales, which is just below this gray line. And let's bring it and put it in the column shelf. And once we bring it into the column shelf, by default, measures are shown as sum. And it will show you a continuous axis from 0 to 850K. It's created an axis. So anything which is continuous will create an axis. And you can see it in the form of green pill. Now let's take another example. So measures need not to be always green. So green is basically a continuous, right? So in this case, let's create a duplicate value of sales by right-clicking on that and create a duplicate value. And in sales copy, let's right-click again and say I want to convert it into discrete. So let's click on that value. And let's take a similar example. So let's bring categories again into row shelf. And let's bring sales, which is shown in blue color, which is now discrete values. So discrete values are always shown in blue color. And let me bring it into the column shelf. And what you will see here is the values. Or maybe let's bring it into the row shelf. And you will see the labels or the values of sum of sales is created. It's not a continuous value. It's not created an axis. Rather, it created a header and a label, which shows us the total sales value for furniture, office supplies, and technology. So measure can be continuous and it can be green. So by default, all the measures are shown in Tableau in green, but it need not to be green all the time. We can change it into discrete value as well. Let's do the same thing for dimension. So let's bring profit. So if we bring profit bin into the row shelf, you will see all the headers and labels are created for profit bin. Now let's change this profit bin by right-clicking on it and change it to continuous. And then if we bring it into row shelf, you will see a continuous axis is created from -6K to 8K. So that's how dimension can be discrete or continuous. And the same way, measure can be discrete and continuous. I hope you guys are finding this tutorial useful, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so and press the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos. Let's move on to the next section and talk about the shelves, which will be column shelf, page shelf, and filter shelf, and we understand what each one of these means. So let's go to Tableau Desktop. So as the name column suggests, it is used to create the columns. And you will see on the left hand side here this icon which shows 3 bars and which shows us the vertical bars, which tells us that it's going to create columns. So let's try that with bringing subcategories into column shelf. And when we bring this categories into column shelf, it will represent one row with multiple columns. And if we do the same thing and bring that into rows, it will represent all these values into multiple rows and only one column. So that's how we can use these shelves if we want to display the data in a row format, which is vertical with multiple rows, or in column format, which is multiple columns and one row. So we can use that. And for example, let's say I want to show the sales by row for all these subcategories. So I will simply bring sales into column shelf, and I will then sort it in the descending order. So you can see all the sales by subcategory in a descending order. And that's about column and row shelves. And for example, I want to say I just want to see couple of subcategories. I don't want to see all of them. So I will simply use filter shelf, where, as the name suggests, it allows you to specify which data to include or exclude. So I will simply drag subcategory into filter shelf, and I will say I don't want to see art, binder, or bookcase. And I will simply click apply, and you will see all these art, binder, and books are gone from this worksheet. So you can use this and click on that, and you can say show filter, and then all these filter subcategories are displayed on the right hand side. And you can then click drop down here, and you can select different formatting options. If you want to say multiple value using drop down, you can click on that, and you can see by just dropping down you will see all these values. And you can do more formatting here by just clicking on the drop down, and you can go to customize, and you can also add apply button. So when next time you click on these ones, let's say when you are unchecking all of these, nothing is changing till the time you click apply button, and all of these will be changed. So that's how you can add multiple dimensions or measures here to filter it out, filter the data out which you don't need. And moving on to the page shelf. Page shelf is used to break the view into series of pages, so you can better analyze how the specific field affect the rest of the data in the view. So for example, let's say I want to use order date, and I remove the filter first, and I bring order date into page shelf, and you will see year of order date has appeared. You can change it into month or day. So let's click on the drop down, and let's say I want to use month here. So I will go to more, go to custom, and select month and year. Once I click that, it will start from January. It will show me the beginning of the month and year. So that's page 1. And you can actually play and stop the button, and you can increase the speed by these lines. So if you select just single line, horizontal line, it will be slow. If you select 2 lines, it will be normal. And if you select this one, it will be fast. So once you select fast, I will use fast in this example, and click play button, and you will see how they are changing. Actually, let's do fast. So let's do the slow one and bring that. So these are all the pages. The pages are graded based on the month and year, and you can actually see how the sales are happening on each of these pages. And it is also quite useful because it is telling you each month how many is the sale. But that's not what I want to see. Let's say I want to see the running total. Like if today it's 10,000, tomorrow it's again 10,000, I want to see 20,000 tomorrow. So that can be achieved by just clicking on the drop down here and go to quick table calculation and select running total. And it will give you the running total value. And when you play that, it will keep on increasing, and accordingly it will work. So that way you can use this one to see the pages, how it works to show you the series of pages to analyze your data in a better way. Now moving on to the mark shelf. So I will remove this, and moving on to the mark shelf, and I want to see, I will change the running total. I don't want it. So it's like this. So as marks are really useful. It's one of the key elements for the visual analysis in Tableau. So let's say I want to drag the number of sales. I want to see it as a label on top of each of these bars. So I will drag the sales and put it on the label. Once I bring it on the labels mark, it will show me the sales on each bar. So phone being 330 grand sales in the phone subcategory. And let's say I want to color it by category. So I will bring category into the color shelf, and it will show me all the different colors for each of these categories. And also, if I want to say profit, I want to see the size of the bar based on the profit. So I can click on, bring it onto the profit onto the size mark, and you will see the bigger the size, the more profit is there. And even though the sales for table is too much, but the profit is a negative. So that way you can use all of these marks, which will add content and detail to the mark in the view. So this is really useful to analyze the data and visually understand how the details are added using marks in these views. So by adding these fields to the shelves and cards, we are actually building the structure of the visualization. Adding context to the visualization by encoding marks with color, size, shape, and text and details are really useful. I know it's quite a long session, but these are the basic concepts when you start working on Tableau are really crucial to understand it. Once you understand these basics, you can create any visualization, any advanced visualization in Tableau. I hope you guys find this session useful, and if you have any questions, please feel free to drop me a message, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.